Broken things are captivating. They're enchanted with paradox and charged with the possibility of change. For only a disfigured thing can ache with hope for an extraordinary metamorphosis. Don't look away. Cracks contain legends, wrinkles deepen alongside wisdom. Bits of broken glass refract the most beautiful light. Gaze at brokenness long enough to find hope in the midst of decay and beauty in the dissonances of life. And in moments made of shattered glass, when fears become reality and pieces are scattered in 1,000 parts, prisms are formed that reflect a fuller spectrum of light. Every now and again, I catch a glimpse of these ancient rays of truth. We're loved. We're not alone. Yes, we're dust, but we're flecked with gold. I wrote this poem in early 2017. My second daughter, Perry, was born in December of that year, and the 9 months leading up to her birth were shrouded by an intense darkness that started just weeks after I wrote those words. It started as antenatal depression, but it remained through the following postpartum year and the year after that. I desperately wanted to experience that light again, a light that could spark a full array of prismatic beauty. Those 3 years would have been difficult, even without the shadow of depression. 2 days before Perry was born, my husband, Brad, became sick, really sick. He was bedridden for months at a time for the first 2 years of Perry's life. I felt so alone caring for my newborn baby, who was so full of life that she never slept. My 3-year-old, who was rapidly developing a series of phobias from the massive transitions she was experiencing, and watching my Brad deteriorate, the captive of the couch he lay on. I felt like I was constantly failing both them and myself. The time I moved a couch by myself, 3 days home from the hospital after my C-section surgery, popping some internal stitches. The time I dropped Perry onto the hardwood floor from the height of our bed because I had fallen asleep exhausted mid-feed. The time Brad told me he was in so much pain he wished he could be run over by a bus. And I said, okay, see you later. And I left for work because it was my birthday and I was angry. The time I could only take that tiny break self-employed people call a maternity leave, all of 6 weeks long. The time I showed up to a live-to-radio performance without having had a moment to glance at the charts. The time I totaled our car in an accident, my fault. The time I got in a second car accident, not my fault that time, but the buckled doors and the scraped paint stared at me for almost a full year before I got the car to the body shop. The months of wasted effort in creating beautiful things that I had no energy to put in front of an audience. Those years would have been difficult without the all-encompassing, debilitating darkness that I couldn't wrestle myself from. My self-identity was shattered. I was a capable person. I set my mind to things and achieved them. I was strong. I was annoyingly optimistic. Until suddenly, I wasn't. I think that once something breaks in us, it never really becomes unbroken. We learn how to hold the fragments together, however precariously. But the mystery in it all is that once the pieces are broken and separated, the whole becomes more expansive, inclusive of both the original parts and the gaps that have formed in between. There's new spaces, new pathways that didn't exist before. So the work isn't in mending what got broken, it's in expanding into the new places and swimming in the new currents that didn't exist before. It's in embracing the space and learning how to gift it to others. Those spaces are a wild universe where ambiguity and uncertainty are completely at home, where perfection has no place. It's the wildness of an uncertain desert. Clarissa Pinkola Estes says, "A desert is a place where small things grow." A life in the desert is small, but brilliant. It was painful to shatter, but a wild freedom began to flourish in the new pathways, and the desert began to teem with small, living things. See, the beautiful thing is that the spaces between are far from empty. There's a community of people already there, already at home in the wilderness, creating spaces of welcome for the new arrivals. The time I didn't cook for over 3 months because of all the meal deliveries. The time when a friend told me from the perspective of her own wilderness experience that this is what life is made of. And I learned radical acceptance. The time I told another friend, I'm supposed to be Winnie the Pooh, not Eeyore. And he sent me a picture of Piglet sitting beside a sad Winnie the Pooh. The time my doctor told me that her hope was that this time next year, this pain would be fading into the background. The time when Brad said to me, "Let's fight the darkness today," and we felt like superheroes. The month, October 2019, that Brad finally found a medication that worked, and then less than a week later, so did I. The time our entire world was plunged into the uncertain wilderness of COVID, and I realized that I was already at home here, ready to welcome the newcomers myself. These experiences of shattering and expanding seem to be cyclical, and I think that's the way it's supposed to be. My wilderness left me with a lot of poems and songs and stories. The beautiful poet Ocean Vuong wrote in his essay, The Weight of Our Being, maybe all a poem can really do is remind us that we're not alone in our feelings. And maybe that's nothing. And maybe that's more than enough.